I remember the exact second I realized my grandfather wasn't holding my bike anymore and that I was in fact riding my two-wheeler bike myself. I was 7 years old. My grandfather decided it was time for me to take my training wheels off. "But I don't mind using them," I told him. "You're a big girl now, you for sure can." "I'm not ready yet." "You are, you'll see. You'll be riding in no time." And so we began. Up and down the long driveway, I pedaled wobbly, with my grandfather holding on to the back of my seat. "Come on, come on, come on," he'd say anytime I'd slow down or stop completely. Up and down the driveway I pedaled, periodically looking back behind me to make sure he was still holding on to my seat. "Don't worry, I'm right here," he'd say. Slowly but surely, my riding became more stable. "You're getting better, great job," my grandfather exclaimed. I looked behind me. "Don't let go, okay?" I said. "I'm not ready yet." We continued on up and down the driveway. I started to pick up speed. "Look, I'm doing it," I called happily. "Great job," my grandfather said. I felt secure knowing he was holding on to me. I reached the top of the driveway. Turning was the trickiest part. As I turned, I came face to face with my grandfather, smiling at me proudly. But wait. My stomach dropped. "Why aren't you holding on to me anymore?" Keep going, my grandfather urged me. I began to wobble. "But I can't do it without you." "Yes, you can. This whole circle, you were doing it all by yourself." This memory is really special to me because it taught me that sometimes you think you still need help when you're already more capable than you realize. It took my grandfather's support for me to see that. I think about that a lot now, especially every time I try to make something. When I found this reference photo on Pinterest, it reminded me of this moment. I linked my reference photo below in the description for you. I've also linked my Pinterest page where I've collected other reference photos in a similar style that you might like. I really am not liking this gray background. I'm going to take a photograph and then in my Photos app, I'm going to color it in both blue and green. I think I like how it looks with the green more, so I think we're gonna have to try that. The only thing I'm worried about is that if I paint the background green, I'm going to be obligated to start painting this whole thing in color because it'll just look so realistic. I'm not sure what to do, but I guess I'll just wing it. Maximum I can always wipe it off, I guess. But yeah, I've been avoiding this painting for like a day and a half. I just cannot look at it. If you're like me, every time you start a new painting, it feels like you're beginning anew. Even though I've been painting with watercolors consistently for close to 3 years now, every painting brings with it its own challenges, which require its own amount of problem solving. When I was starting out with watercolors, I used to think that feeling hesitation and doubt throughout my creative painting process just came from a lack of experience. However, throughout the painting process of this piece, I still felt the same way for some reason. Why is it that with some paintings, we second-guess every brushstroke? Creating sometimes feels hard because you doubt your own capabilities. I think for some artists, this is a natural part of the painting process. Painting teaches you how to push past your doubt and trust the process. More often than not, a bad painting happens because you gave up too early, not because the idea was bad. A way to beat feeling this way is to expect it. Understand that the doubt is part of the process and let it go. Every time you second-guess yourself throughout your creative process, try consciously taking note of it, and then telling yourself that this is just a phase and isn't based on anything except fear of the unknown. In fact, the time when it's hardest to paint or create is actually when it matters most. Choosing to show up consistently over time puts you ahead of so many people. Did you know that 80% of Americans abandon their New Year's resolutions by February, and only 6% to 9% successfully keep them for the full year? I bet it's just as hard for the 6 to 9% who continued as it is for the 80% that gave up. They both feel the same doubt. The only difference between them is that one gave up while the other just kept showing up. I just came back from another long break from this painting. I left because I was feeling overwhelmed with the amount of details that I felt I needed to paint. But now that I returned to it, I realize, what if I just left it as is and left this painting a bit more rough than all my usual works? It doesn't have to be so, detailed or perfect or anything. It's just basically finished, and maybe it's just a sign for me to leave this painting more rough than how I'd usually leave it. I think an underrated part of becoming great at something is community. Because often, the people who get far aren't those who are the most talented. It's those who pushed through, even when it was hard, who made an effort to keep that creative spark alive. And what helps you keep going? Having someone believe in you. There are so many times throughout my art journey where I felt like giving up and wondered if it was even worth it to continue pursuing art. The reason I'm still pushing through today is thanks to the people who were there at my lowest moments and believed in me when I didn't yet believe in myself. But what if you feel you don't have anyone who believes in you? Here's the honest truth. No matter where you are in life, whether it's at a high or a low, you're going to be grinding. Sometimes it comes easier, and other times it feels like you are finding the energy to continue out of thin air. We wait for someone to come by and give us a hand who will take care of us, but it won't come until you become that person yourself. When you stretch your hand and make an effort to give someone else hope, that kindness will return to you. It starts with you. Soon enough, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who support each other. This was the vision that I had when I first started this YouTube channel. Having all of you fellow artists here supporting each other just by being present was once just a dream. Along this journey, I have met people that changed my life for the better. And to all of you here, thank you so much for believing in me. I love reading your comments and really appreciate all the kind words and support. Thank you. I think my bike story with my grandfather is so significant to me because it reminds me that often all we lack is confidence in order to succeed. It also makes me appreciate how in just believing in me, my grandfather made such a difference. I'm so glad I pushed through my doubt and created this meaningful, realistic watercolor portrait. Please share your story of when someone made a difference by believing in you. Thank you for watching.